How are you today, Miss Tina?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you today.
Same here.
Yeah. So I understand your visit today involves some issues of anxiety. Do you want to tell me a little bit about where these feelings are coming from?
Well, I've been thinking about going back to work and having to go back to work and just to help support and take a little bit of a load off of my husband for our family. But I'm still nursing and I haven't worked for since my son turned a year old and now he's 4. So it's been almost 3 years and I have 2 children now. So my daughter, she's 14 months old and my son, he's 4 years old. So I'm just, really trying to figure that out.
And I understand that you yourself celebrated a 30th birthday not too long ago.
Yes, definitely, it's probably the calmest of all birthdays because I didn't do anything, didn't get the opportunity to, just with everything going on and needing childcare and so on. So it just, and just some family things that came up, but that's yet to be celebrated. I still have to celebrate it. But yes, now I'm 30, I'm in the new decade, so I'm going to embrace it.
All right, well, have you been looking at jobs then? You mentioned taking a little bit of a load off of your husband in terms of pressure, financial pressures.
Yes.
So have you had a chance to talk with him about it, and is he been supportive of that idea, or would he like to?
He's actually kind of mentioned it to me before I was even ready to start thinking about work, and it was before, I would say when Lillian was around 6 months old, my daughter, and I just told him at the time that would be too soon for me with nursing, and it's really important for me to be able to do that and to be there for her on demand, and I still am. But we did speak about it, and that's something that I think would be very helpful to our family. I would just hope that, it wouldn't cause more stress in other areas as far as trying to just pick up, cooking and then the cleaning and just, taking care of the other things, because when you're working, yeah, you're bringing in financial gains, but everything else might kind of fall to the wayside,
Yes, absolutely. So I can see how maybe you weren't quite ready to start thinking about going back to work, and that may have started a process of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And do you feel as if you're a little bit more ready at this stage?
I mean, it's still early on, and for me, the whole working process, just trying to find a job, the interviewing part is very nerve-wracking to me because I feel like I know so much more than I'm able to articulate and just share. And every job that I've had, I've always kind of been in the top tier of as far as performance and knowledge and just being a good team player and so on. So that piece is just something I'm trying to figure out, because also then I haven't had an interview for 3 years, so it's just something that I have to get my mind back into of what do I want to demonstrate. So sorry, I hope that answers the question.
No, absolutely. It seems like the communication skills that would apply in the work setting. You mentioned not really being able to articulate at that level just yet, having been away from that setting for so many years and focusing your attention more on raising your children, which I'm sure is a whole different skill set of communication
Right.
in terms of speaking to your kids and raising a 14-month-old versus being back on a career-oriented team, professional team. So I can see where the anxiety is starting to brew. Now, do you think that areas of communication, like maybe practicing some of the communication skills that you would use in the workplace, is that something that gives you a sense of relief, or does that kind of add to the pressure that you're already feeling?
No, it definitely gives me a sense of relief because I know what I've done before. It's just a matter of being able to just think on the spot and be able to just answer any type of question that comes up about yourself. So that's more difficult for me than when I'm speaking about a financial statement or numbers, where it's just so specific. And it's something that I have kind of engraved in my mind because I've worked on those numbers and so on. So for me, the way I'm usually most successful is just thinking of what questions might come up and, researching that, and then coming up with my own answers, and then just, kind of going through like a mock interview or something with my husband or whoever is available, to just get used to saying it, because I can think about it all day, but it's really different for me for like verbally saying it rather than just thinking about it.
Sure, I think that's an excellent idea. You mentioned a mock interview. I think that's an excellent idea, and it definitely seems that you're starting to mentally prepare yourself for, that shift.
Yes.
From motherhood to, a career woman.
Mm-hmm.
And your field is in accounting, is that correct? In finance and
Yes.
in accounting?
Mm-hmm. And I
Okay.
also have some experience in supply chain, so I would like to be more in the finance field because that's where I have my bachelor, but the most recent experience I've had is within the supply chain aspect.
Okay.
So
I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with the term supply chain. So what exactly would you do in working in supply chain?
So it's an individual that works like anything to do with the logistics of product, or usually of product. So managing trucks, and then just ensuring that the customer is getting their order on time, and making sure the warehouses have product in time and are producing on time so that all the orders can be met. And sometimes you have seasonal products that can be affected in the hot summer, and then you have some products that need to be refrigerated. So it's just a matter of working out all those details and making sure that you have all the answers for your customer when they're calling you. So
Okay,
there's many different levels, but it's mainly like customer based and warehouse based and just logistics, so trucks, supply.
Okay, like
Where
a
does
chain
the
of events,
right.
kind of, in terms
How
of
does-
supplying.
Mhm. Like
Okay.
what raw materials do you need, and then what's the supply chain? So like if you just think about a path or so on, like from the time you have this raw product to the end product, how do you get from the beginning to the end? What are all those steps in between? And there's many different levels to it, so it just depends on.
Do you feel like there's any similarities between supply chain, for example, and what you do at home and
Mhm.
working with your children? Is that path that you mentioned, have you been able to find any commonalities between the two worlds, or anything that you think might be an easy transition back into the career force?
I mean, that's definitely an interesting question. I haven't actually quite thought about it, but with you saying that, it does make sense. how am I mean, I don't want to talk so much about nursing, but as far, that's a pretty time consuming type of way of life, because you really do need to think about, to get this end product, what do I need to do throughout the day, and how well do I need to sleep, and what do I need to eat, and how much water intake. So it's a lot of management when you're taking care of a baby, an infant. And then when you add another layer of having an older child, it's just, really managing very well. I think time management is very crucial for both at home and within the supply chain. Very important aspect of it.
Yeah, okay. But on an emotional level, perhaps these are, very different worlds in terms of what is expected of you, and when you think of that attachment that you have right now, being stay-at-home mom, and some of the anxieties that might come up when, or I don't know, how would you base those anxieties or some of those concerns on an emotional level? Because it sounds to me like you're very familiar with your work, and part of you may be prepared to go there, but on a biological level, physical level, and I just want to check in with you on an emotional stance.
I'm sure it will definitely be an emotional few weeks, or months getting back into it. And then I also have to make an important decision as far as whether or not I'm going to continue nursing. And if I am, that means I'll have to take time out of my workday to pump and make sure I'm storing milk properly. Just to give you some details of what that means. But it's going to be hard because I haven't been away for Lillian more than just a couple of hours. And I think I would have a harder time because she's an infant and she really does need me physically and, health-wise,
sure.
Right now, she's the only one that, I'm the only one that can actually just take care of her and get her to sleep and be comfortable throughout the day. But,
is that Lillian we're hearing right now?
yes, it is.
Okay.
And right away it makes my heart start jumping because I know she needs me, but being at work I won't be able to hear her or be able to be there for her. So it's sad because it shouldn't be that way. I feel it shouldn't be that way, but
Okay. Well, do you feel like you're a little rushed right now, and maybe that's where some of the anxiety is coming from?
Yes, because if she was 2 years old, I would feel like, okay, I didn't have to make the decision of whether or not to stop nursing or, and then I would feel better as far as her capabilities with being able to fully feed herself, and then she would probably be potty trained by then. There's just many aspects that come into thinking about how will your child be cared for. Will they be taken, good enough care? And the reality is it never will be to the extent of which a mother takes care of her own child, but you kind of have to be accepting of that. So, but time definitely helps. Anxiety is definitely coming from being rushed and feeling like I'm not ready for it just yet. I'm not.
Well, I think maybe we can just sit with that thought for a moment, kind of knowing what you want. On a financial level, perhaps, I understand that you may want to step in and relieve or support that element of the family dynamic as well. But what you say right now, I feel like a little bit of just a relief altogether when you're able to verbalize that. You just may not be ready to go back.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm not ready to go back, but I realized that I just have this like natural built-in code within my brain that's like, you have to do what the family needs you to do. You have to put yourself last because you're a mother and you're a wife, and then it's kind of like your own person as a woman kind of like comes third. If if you could kind of just like follow how I'm trying to just categorize it, you know what I mean?
Oh, sure. It's
like,
a lot of pressure.
Mhm.
I hear there's just a lot of pressure,
Right.
and that added element of, hurry, let's get back into this.
Right, because realistically, an income for 6 months versus income for 5 years, or income for 3 months within the next 3 months doesn't seem so significant to me as, if we could just kind of like, waiting another 3 to 6 months isn't as crucial as, no, we're getting back to work tomorrow. Like, I don't feel like it's going to make that big of an impact,
Sure.
because then there's childcare that's needed not just for one, but now for two. And it's usually more for an infant than it is for an older child that can do everything for themselves,
Mhm.
including going to the bathroom and washing their hands and eating and just everything. Getting dressed, putting shoes on,
Sure.
So.
Well, I think that one area that we can continue to look at as we shape some strategies and start to really define our goals in terms of getting ready to go back to work, I think we can look at like those mock interviews. That's something that I'd love to be able to help you with. So, but I don't really want to rush that either. So maybe we can kind of have that more as a longer term goal, and in the meantime we can focus more on some of those more immediate pressures happening more right now. And I'd love to talk and take a little bit of a closer look at those, Tina as mom, Tina as wife, and then
Mhm.
Tina as Tina.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we can focus in a little bit more on the pressure that's coming from each one of those areas. And in the meantime, we can always, include a brief mock interview so that we're not losing sight of our longer term goals either.
Yes, okay.
So once Lillian is ready for school, and once she can use the washroom on her own and feed herself and all that on her own, and once you're comfortable and once you feel ready, physically and emotionally and mentally ready to go back, those mock interviews will kind of help it keep it all kind of fresh,
Okay.
and they'll be easier to pull from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with a clearer mind, knowing
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
she's okay. Okay.
Yeah, so a little bit of a balancing act, I feel, maybe like that work-life balance right now. But I don't want you to feel pressured, Tina. I sense as if you're not quite ready,
Mhm.
and I'm fine with that. Maybe we can see how that will affect the family. But I thank you so much for your time. Is there any closing thoughts that you want to put out there?
No, I mean, I definitely appreciate your time and what you said. It definitely feels like it's coming from a good place and that you genuinely care. So,
Oh, absolutely.
I had a couple of therapists where it's kind of just was like, okay, well, I don't want to hear it anymore, so I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I am still at the student level, I do admit, but
you have a very caring way about you,
Yeah, well, I really do appreciate that, and you do as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I look forward to talking
next
more
visit.
soon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Tina. Thanks for your time tonight.
My pleasure.